Welcome. Hello, hello. I'm Chef Jenny. I'm going to be your instructor today. Welcome to Palm Health. Going to go ahead and give a minute so everyone can join us, but please, we love seeing your beautiful faces. If you don't mind, share your camera with us. Got a great class today. We are talking all things sugar, so we're so happy that you're here. I'm a pastry chef, so I was made for this class. I can't wait to talk all things sugar. Welcome, welcome. We see you coming in. Thanks for joining us. We love seeing you all. If you're from Homemade, it's nice to see you again. If you're a newcomer to these series of classes, welcome. My name is Chef Jenny. Like I said, and I'm going to be your instructor today, and this is Palm Health. Welcome, everyone. We are so excited. Happy Wednesday to you all. Is it Wednesday? Once December starts, it's just all a mesh. I don't know what day or time it is. It's a whole blur, right? We're more appreciative that you're able to carve out time to join us because I know it's a busy time of year, which is even more important that we take time for ourselves, especially to learn and grow about how food can heal. So I'm really glad to be here with you today. Just give it another couple seconds, let everyone join, introduce ourselves. Once again, hello, welcome to Palm Health, where the joys of food meet clinical care. I am the head chef for Palm today. My name is Chef Jenny, and we are here to talk about all things sugar. That's the theme of today's class today. So we're gonna be making 3 wonderful, delicious desserts, all different flavors, different types. Great thing to learn going into the holiday season. The focus of these classes, and this is number 3 of a series of 6, is above all to help you, teach you how to use food to heal, which is so powerful and so important and can be done. And the most important thing is to not sacrifice flavor and always never sacrifice fun. I got into food because food is fun. So that's why we're here today, and we're gonna have a good time. We want you to be involved. Please ask questions. We've got a live chat on, so we want you to ask all the questions. We don't want you leaving here left with anything in it. We know sugar is a lot of information and maybe contradictory information about sugar, and it's really overwhelming. So this is the class to ask. Get it all out. Ask all the questions. Ask us anything. We've got a great team here who's professionals to answer all your questions. I'm going to throw it to them now to introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Julie Lopez. I'm your registered dietitian. I'm a culinary dietitian, so I like to educate about nutrition through food. And I'm very excited about today's recipes because I definitely have a sweet tooth, and I like to talk about how to enjoy everything in a balanced way. So I'll be here to answer questions in the chat and add to the discussion for the nutrition topics.
Hi, I'm Susan Hellerstein. I'm an OBGYN from Boston. I'm really happy to be here today and see all these returning faces and some new faces. I've been doing a lot with culinary medicine, and I see that my patients, they want to do the right thing, and I can tell them, what to do, but how to do it is often a mystery. So this is a great venue to learn that. And I also have a sweet tooth, so I'm super looking forward to this class. So one thing as a physician that I know is that, when we look at the American diet and what's really been responsible for a lot of the weight gain in our communities, the increased incidence of diabetes, heart disease, a lot of it is related to our sugar intake. The average American has about 22 teaspoons of sugar a day, added sugar. So I'm not talking about the sugar that's naturally in the foods that we eat, but added sugar, teaspoons that you put into your food. And the recommendation really is for women to have 6 teaspoons of added sugar a day, for men to have 9 teaspoons of added sugar a day. So today we're making things with sugar on purpose, and we're trying to decrease sometimes the amount of sugar by using some of the natural sweeteners that are in food, like the dates that we're using. And we know that a lot of it is, we have to have treats. We can't deprive ourselves, and we intentionally make delicious sweets and treats for ourselves and try to do it in a good portion control. So that's really what a lot of today is about, is, you know, how to get that satisfaction, think about portion control, and the main message is look for the sugar that's added in places you don't want it, in your salad dressings, in your drinks, in your breads, you know, a lot of those processed foods. Today we are purposely making some sweet, delicious treats, but we'll be talking about that more. So ask away any questions that you have.
All right.
And then I'm going to quickly introduce myself. Hi, everyone. I'm Misha. I'm from the Palm Health team, and I'm in the chat. So if you have any questions about recipes, about sugars, if you have questions for any of our team, I will moderate, and we'll kind of either answer live or send it out to the team. I'll hand it back to you, Jenny.
Okay, let's get started. First recipe we're gonna do is a flourless, chewy, fudgy brownie recipe. And I think that the key there is that we're not gonna use any flour. We are going to be using a secret ingredient, which is the almighty avocado. You might not think of avocado being in desserts, but let me tell you, avocado is creamy, it adds fat, and it's a great substitute in desserts, especially for dairy. I use that a lot, and it really takes on, absorbs whatever flavors you add to it, kind of like how tofu does. So it's getting more and more popular in desserts. And I love to see it because I'm a native California. So I'm from the land of avocados. I think it's mandatory you have to eat them whether you like them or not. It's just, if you're from California, you have to eat avocados. Not a problem. I love them. So I'm starting with one avocado here. And I want to give you a little tip, is that how do we find out if an avocado is ripe? If you look at the little tip here where you've got that bud, if it comes off easily, then that's usually a good tip that it is ready to go. And if you gently press it and it gives a little giveaway, then that means it's also ready to go. So I'm just gonna gently slice this in half. Oh, look at that. My pit came out right on its own. Actually, it's the one time I didn't want to, because I wanted to show you all how to get the pit out. But one way to do it safely is never knife in the hand. That's an ER visit. We don't want that, especially during the holidays. What you want to do is turn around and use your thumbs and push the pit out, and the pit will pop right out. So that's the way to do it. Or you can take a spoon and scoop it out to try to get the pit. But whatever you do not take a knife to the hand. Stitches. It's just gonna be stitches. So I'm gonna take a large spoon and scoop out my avocado here as my stove's beeping at me. One avocado, and scoop it right in here. And then I've got some almond butter. I'm just gonna go ahead and add that in. I'm using unsweetened almond butter because I don't want that added sugar. And I love almond butter, and we're gonna get some good fat from here to help hold our pastry together. And then I've got a little bit of vanilla extract. It's good, if you don't have vanilla extract on hand right now, go get yourself some. If there's one, December is sponsored by vanilla extract, so make sure you've got it. Even if you're like, I don't need it, you're gonna need it. And then
Hey Jenny, I saw a big bottle at Costco for any of my Costco stands here.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're like, how could I possibly use all that? You will. Trust me. If you aren't, you should. I'm a pastry chef, so we absolutely love vanilla extract. Okay. Simple enough. 2 eggs, and try to get those eggs room temperature. You don't want them really, really cold because they'll blend in easier. I'm just gonna get my masher here and mash up my avocado to begin with. And thankfully this avocado was really ripe, so it's smashing pretty easily. Avocados tend to only be ripe, it feels like, for maybe 3 hours, and then they're either unripe or overripe. It's so hard to get them right in between. But if you've got firm avocados, a little tip is to put them in a brown paper bag with an apple, a pear, a banana, and roll it up and give it 1 or 2 days. And then the gas that releases from those fruits will help ripen your avocado. A little hack. Take that one with you.
That's definitely some food science for you.
I mean, yes, I'm also a food scientist, not just a pastry chef, so it's really hard not to be nerdy. It's just part of my
love it.
DNA. Yeah. So I
That's
got
definitely the nutrition side too. I call myself a nutrition nerd all the time because I find it fascinating. So one thing I wanted to add about the avocado is we are adding a heart-healthy fat and fiber to our brownies now. And this recipe, you'll see, doesn't even contain any all-purpose flour, any alternative flours here, but that fat is also going to help with our blood sugar. So remember when we were talking about in previous classes how our blood sugar will rise? We want it to level out and not spike up and crash down. So that fat, that heart-healthy fat, is going to help with that. So we have a slower rise and then a slower dip. Plus, it's adding that moisture to our brownies. Because I don't know about you, but I love fudgy, gooey brownies.
Fudgy. Yes. Fudgy. I feel like this is, if you don't have an opinion on it, you should give it some thought. Whether or not you're a cakey or fudgy brownie person, I am a fudgy brownie person all the way.
Yeah.
I will leave it at that.
Hey, Chef Jenny. So we have a lot of good chatter around almond butter right now.
Yeah.
And so for folks who might not be able to find almond butter, I'm pretty sure it's pretty easy to make at home. Am I right or am I wrong on that?
Yeah.
What easy is there?
Yeah, if you've got a good blender or food processor, you can. I would get unsalted almonds and have this, especially if you can get the skins removed. I like them toasted up a little bit just to give it a little extra flavor, and then just blend them up because there's natural fats in those nuts. And as you blend it, those fats will release and it'll give you a natural butter. I think the thing to make sure is don't add extra fat, don't add extra sugar. You just want the pureed almonds.
Yeah, maybe I'll throw this over to you, Julie, too. I know a lot of nut butters have added sugar. So is there, maybe just taking it back to nutrition labels, like what should we be looking for on the store-bought ones?
Yeah, really. So the only thing you should see is the nut, if you're using almonds, and then maybe salt to add a little bit of that flavor. But really, there should not be anything else in there. They tend to add different oils or stabilizers to keep the oil from separating, but that's a natural occurrence. So my one tip is anytime I buy a natural peanut butter, almond butter, I open it, give it a really good stir to incorporate all that oil, and every time I use it, I just keep turning it upside down and the upside right, upside down. So every time I'm using it, the oil is kind of flowing back up and down into it, so I don't have to mix it every single time.
Absolutely. It is one of those things that I think you just get used to doing. If the first time you're buying a natural nut butter is that oil top, I think don't freak out. It's that thing we're just accustomed to now. That's part of it. All you have to do is give it a little stir. So nothing's wrong. It's okay. So I got my wet ingredients now blended, and it looks very shiny and creamy from all that fat in there, from the avocado, which is really nice because my avocado was ripe. It went together really smoothly. So now I'm gonna get my dry ingredients together. I've got some cocoa powder. I got some coconut sugar here. So we are using sugar, it's just coconut sugar, and a little salt, and got that baking powder there, okay? I'm gonna mix these together.
So coconut sugar has a little bit of a different glycemic index than your regular granulated sugar, but again, it's still sugar. So we don't want to put a health halo over it and saying this is a healthy sugar. It's still an added sugar into our diet. Just with these other kinds of sugars like coconut sugar, maybe you're using maple sugar, they have a little bit more of a complex flavor. So you can tend to use a little less than you were to use a regular kind of sugar in there.
Okay. And then I'm gonna go ahead and now just add in my dry ingredients. If you're doing this in a mixer, Do not put this on high, otherwise you're gonna dust your entire kitchen with cocoa powder. It's gonna look like someone's fingerprinting in there. You want to go very low and slow, but we don't want to overmix this anyways. We want to try to keep it nice and light. So really, if you want to use a hand mixer or a stand mixer, you can, but I really think this is easily done just stirring in yourself, just with a nice wooden spoon or spatula. As you can see here, it starts coming together.
Ever gotten cocoa powder or cacao powder everywhere? Like, have you ever spilled it? It is such a pain to clean up, so I definitely recommend just stirring this versus using the electric beater because it's a pain.
It's not like flour because it leaves like a chocolate grease stain everywhere. Like your fingerprints are all around it. It's a humbling experience if you spill cocoa or cacao powder. It really will teach you, like, yeah, I don't know as much as I thought I did. Okay. Ooh.
So does anyone know here the difference between cocoa and cacao? Curious if anyone has any.
Ooh, good question.
Give you guys 2 more seconds. Is it the level of processing? A little bit. So, cacao and cocoa powder, the one big difference is that cacao is roasting. They just roast it at a lower temperature, and they use a fermented bean. So, you're getting a little bit more of those prebiotics, probiotics from that fermented bean, and it's roasted at a lower temperature before it's milled. So your cocoa nib is going to be roasted and cooked at a much higher temperature and then milled. So what's the biggest difference is a lot of times in cocoa powder, they will sometimes add some dairy or even some sugar. So if you're going to sub with cocoa powder, just make sure that you're looking for one that just has the cocoa powder. Again, we're trying to avoid the added sugars here because we just added coconut sugar into this recipe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're the pastry chef, so tell me more about
100%. And I totally just realized it's so interchangeable. December brain, everyone. We use cacao powder. We didn't use cocoa powder. So I actually like cacao powder better because I think you get a more pure chocolate flavor. I'm getting chocolate. A lot of people don't realize there's this fifth taste bud that we call umami. It's savory, it's deeply rich, and I think a lot of the suggestion might be really savory fermented foods like miso or like a grilled steak. But sweet ingredients or ingredients we use in desserts can have umami too. Coffee can have umami. Chocolate has a ton of umami to it, and the more pure chocolate flavor you get, more of that rich umami. So the less sugar and dried milk powder you have, the more real chocolate flavor you have. And the cacao has a really great depth of flavor. That's what I think of when I think of umami, depth. And when you have deep, rich flavors, you don't miss all this peak artificial sugars and all loads of fat and salt because your tongue is so satiated from that really good flavor. So I like using cacao powder and cocoa nibs a lot in my pastries. Not just because you're thinking of the health profile, it's just better flavor. And as a chef, my priority is always what's the best flavor, what's the best ingredient. So that's what we used. I folded in my chocolate chips here. And I like using dark chocolate chips because, again, I'm getting more of that chocolate flavor. You can even use unsweetened if you want. They make those readily available now. Personally, for me, I like the smaller chocolate chips in a brownie. The bigger ones, I like the bite more. I like just a little hint of chocolate spread throughout rather than big chunks. To each their own. That also feels like a very polarizing brownie reference. I didn't think it would get this hot this fast in the brownie chat, but I'm a fudgy brownie girl and I'm a small chip brownie girl. So I got my 9x9 inch pan. I got a little coconut fat that I'm just putting here because I don't want my parchment to stick. I've got a parchment paper here a little bigger than my pan. And then what I did was I cut a slit in each corner. So then when I put it in, those slits allow the parchment to naturally fold in and fit the pan. If you've ever struggled with parchment, this is a trick you can do. All you have to do is just cut the corners. Who knew? It makes it, I mean, I feel like there's a whole week section in pastry school just about how to cut parchment in different ways. It truly is like there should be parchment art degrees. So we're gonna go ahead and get our brownies in here. It smells so chocolatey and so rich.
While you're putting that in, Jenny, first of all, my mind is blown. I'm always going to cut my parchment paper like this now. I like love this hack. And we heard a great suggestion in the chat, which was adding walnuts or almonds or any type of like nut here to add a little bit more of a crunch, which I thought I'm a brownie nut girly, so that's where I'll chime in. I
feel like that is probably one of the most polarizing questions with brownies is nuts or no nuts. I had a coworker who was also a chef who once referred to nuts and brownies as flavor interrupters, and that lives in my head rent-free about calling them that. I actually like a really nice pecan. Walnuts are okay, but a pecan and brownies, I dig that. That makes me happy. So I'm just kind of trying.
That's another one you could talk about. Pecan versus pecan.
Oh, well, we don't have time for that. That's going to be the whole class. I mean, things are going to get rough if we start asking that. I'm from California, y'all. If you're from the South, please don't come at me. I understand. I say it wrong all the time. Like praline and praline, right? Now I'm just throwing embers in. Now I'm just adding the logs onto the fire. All right. So we are going to go 325 between 40 and 45 minutes. We are going low and slow with this. Usually a lot of baking recipes will be at 350, 375, but I want to preserve this and keep this slow to make sure it stays moist and really fudgy because I want that fudgy texture. And then I'm just gonna take this to my oven over here. And then 325 for 40 to 45 minutes. Let it cool. I would even maybe once it's cool, pop it in the fridge for about 20 minutes before slicing because I feel like because we don't have any flour in here, the best mouthfeel and texture is going to be with it cooled down. So I highly recommend doing that. That's how we recommend you serve these, is have them fully cooled and maybe even a little chilled if you like. So there we go. Brownies, done. We'll cut them at the end of class. Do we have any questions? No? All right. Not too shabby. And then, actually, you know what? I'm going to cut them now. Mostly because I want to eat some. So we're going to get 16 out of these. So through TV Magic, we've got one here. What I recommend doing, professional pastry hack, is having a damp towel. And between each cut, you see how there's brownie on the knife? You take the damp towel and get that off and you'll get cleaner cuts. Now, I'm sure no one in my house is going to care. They probably are just going to eat this with their hands like rabid raccoons. But if you want to bring a little touch of class to it, a wet towel really helps with cutting. So we're going to get 16. So I'm going to cut 4 by 4 here. And now the biggest question, are you a corner brownie person or are you a center brownie person? Just throw it in the chat.
I feel like we should turn it into this or that, this class.
I mean, we're really getting teams here. These brownies are so divisive. I'm an edge brownie person. I want the edge. Team edge, I see you, I am you. And then look at that brownie. It's so beautiful. It cut great. It smells so chocolatey from that cacao powder. And then I'm just gonna take a little bite. You know, energy for the rest of the class. Cheers to you all.
I will actually, as you're digging in, and give us the lowdown.
It's fudgy and chocolate and perfect. Fudgy and chocolate perfect. Title of this class.
So now I have a question. I'm going to throw a sweetener question out there before we move on from brownies. We had a question come in the chat around unsweetened homemade applesauce for a sweetener. Maybe we can talk about that in general, like send that over to Dr. Hellerstein, Julie, if you guys want to chime in with me and like talk about that from a sweetener angle, and then Jenny, if you can talk about that from a cooking angle and how we want to, unsweetened applesauce. Thoughts?
Well, I think that unsweetened applesauce is, it's a great way to sort of cut the amount of sugar in a lot of recipes. I mean, you can oftentimes just replace half of the sweetener with that. It has a reasonable texture. It gives you some fiber. It's not going to have the same texture and feeling as cooking without it, but it's oftentimes something that can really just give you that sweet taste without adding sugar or a sugar alternative.
So also typically you replace applesauce with fat in baking recipes, but again, like Dr. Hellerstein said, you will change the texture of your product. So something like our brownies today, I wouldn't necessarily swap out the sugar with applesauce because we already have that soft ingredient like the avocado to give it that moistness and texture. I think it would kind of make them kind of like soggy brownies. We don't want that. So, Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong, but usually, typically, we're doing that swap for fat versus sugar. But it will add that hint of sweetness because our applesauce is naturally going to be sweet.
Yeah, it's definitely going to add a subtle sweetness. I fully agree. That swap out is more often replacing the fat. If you did an alternative sugar and then also did replace the fat with the applesauce, you're gonna lose a lot of that structure. And then with this recipe, because we don't have flour, we're already losing our gluten component, and that gives us a lot of structure. But in other recipes, if you do have flour in it, I think then you would have enough structure to uphold maybe swapping in that applesauce. I would say for any brownie or cake that you do that with, make sure you chill it before you slice it because you're gonna have a compromised structure. So it might just kind of fall apart otherwise, and chilling it will help tighten it up. But I've definitely done that. It's delicious with applesauce. I love apples, so I love that flavor. All right. Well, brownies, check. Delicious, fudgy amazingness. We've got those. We're moving on to our version of a Snickers bar, where we're going to be doing dates as our base. So the first thing is I'm doing something called a double boil. So I've got a pot of simmering water here, and I've got a heat-proof bowl on top, and I'm just getting that going. I'm going to go ahead and add in some chocolate chips, some chocolate, and a little bit of coconut oil. Coconut fat. This fat is going to help us create a firm chocolate shell that's going to go on top. And again, the higher percentage chocolate you can use here not only will taste better, but it'll look better because the more chocolate you have, the better snap you're going to have, the firmer coating you'll get on top. So I'm a very dark chocolate girl. I go as dark as I possibly could find. So that's what we're using here. And then onto the almighty date. We're using measurable dates here, and we are pitting them. And for a little trick, we've got a little quarter sheet tray here with some parchment on it. I'm just spraying with a little neutral oil the top, and then I'm gonna get a little towel here and spray some of that fat on it, because dates are so sticky that as I slice them, I'm gonna dip a little in the water, dry off, and then get a little bit of fat on there on my paring knife here. And that's gonna help me slice these in half carefully. And then these are pitted for me, but you can take the pit out right now as it is. And I'm gonna line them here on my sheet tray. So as I do this, we'll talk about dates. Get these down.
So I like to call dates nature's candy. And I know it's kind of like nutrition nerdy of me, but they are so sweet. And they are like something when I'm craving something, if you don't even want to take it as far as making the Snickers bark, I will take a date, stuff it with some peanut butter, put a couple chocolate chips, and that will be my Snickers. But this is a little more classy for our holiday season going into. But again, we are focusing on trying to find that sweetness coming from our natural food, so like fruit. And when you have the sugary sweetness coming from the fruit, we're also getting other benefits. So fiber, antioxidants, versus just an added sugar, you're just getting the sugar itself. So we want to always remember the food positives. Yes, a date or an apple or any fruit will contribute to carbohydrates and convert to glucose in our bodies, but we're getting the other benefits coming from that fruit itself. The fiber, the antioxidants, like we said. We really want to shift our focus on reducing the amount of added sugar, like Dr. Hellerstein said in the beginning of class. I love dates. Is anyone a date fan here?
I love dates.
I feel like they're underrated.
I don't know. I feel like they got dismissed to the corner. I'm so happy about their renaissance because I'm seeing them back more.
Yeah, we have one quick question on date hydration, and then one really big question I actually want to send over to Dr. Hellerstein. So my quick question for you, Jenny, is that if we buy dry dates at the store and they're kind of like dehydrated, any tips on how to rehydrate them for a recipe like this? Do you think it needs to be rehydrated?
Yeah. If you're looking for it's a Goldilocks thing when you're shopping for dates. You don't want like really plump fresh dates. You kind of want them a little bit dried, but you don't want them so shriveled and that they're hard. So it's kind of that thing where you want them perfectly right in between, a little plump, a little shiny, a little wrinkly. If they're so dried and firm that you can't even cut them, you could absolutely add just a little bit, I'm talking like a teaspoon of water, toss them around, cover in a heat-proof bowl, and maybe microwave for about, I'd say 20 seconds at a time, just until it's warm, and let it sit for 15 minutes. Drain off any excess water, and then they should be hot. That steam should kind of rehydrate them.
Super good trick. And I think that, as we're leaning into dates in this recipe, I think really helpful. I know that there was a question that came in as we think about all the topics on sugar right now around alternative sugars when reducing A1C, when thinking about different side effects about these. We've talked about natural sugars. I think there were questions around stevia and erythritol and monk fruit. And so maybe I'll send this over to you, Dr. Hellerstein. Dr. Hellerstein, how do we think about this? I'll let you take it away.
I think there's a lot of us who have, really lost track of the amount of sugar we have in our diet, and we end up with elevated hemoglobin A1C, so that we're pre-diabetic, or even, get the diagnosis of diabetes. And in that circumstance, there's some really strict, guidelines of really trying to decrease the amount of sugar, even in a dessert. So there are, we've been talking about here the dates sugar that is natural and it's not added, and then there's fiber in it, but it still is does count as a carbohydrate that's going to turn into glucose in your blood system and increase your blood sugar. So sometimes, maybe not in this recipe, but in a recipe where there's white sugar added, we talked a little bit about how you could add some of the other natural sweeteners like honey or maple syrup, but on a one-to-one substitution, they're going to act the same in your blood sugar and in increasing your blood sugar. So then there's what are the substitutes? So there's the non-nutritive types of substitutes, the old saccharin, sucralose, things like that. That, some of them can be used in baking, like Splenda. They are very concentrated. Most of the non-nutritive sugars and the other sugar substitutes are really, really powerful, and you have to really adjust. They can be between 180 and 20,000 times as powerful, and many of them you can't bake with because they leave a terrible taste. They denaturize in the baking process. They're not made to be heated. So Splenda is one that you can use. But, it's really popular now to use monk fruit as an alternative. And, that's plant-based. I think you can let us know, as chefs, is it a one-to-one substitute? Maybe a little decrease because it's so sweet, but you can bake with it. Julie, what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so monk fruit I definitely notice is still sweeter, so I personally use it and decrease it. I don't have an exact ratio, but just slightly. Yeah. I kind of eyeball it and taste, and I'll readjust as I'm recipe testing. So it's not always a 1-to-1 or like 1 cup to half cup. So you gotta have to play with it depending on what you're baking too. The other thing I wanted to mention is about sugar alcohols. You're seeing a lot of that in products. You're seeing xylitol, erythritol. Just be aware that sometimes too much of that can alter your gut chemistry, and some people have bloating, gas, stomach cramps, bathroom issues that I don't really want to talk about during a cooking class, but that's the reality of it. So there is that one famous super low calorie ice cream, but it has xylitol, erythritol in it, and people are eating now the whole little container of it and having these real issues after it because their stomach can't handle that much of the sugar alcohols in their body. So just be aware of that.
And those
yeah, go ahead.
That's a category you can't really bake with either.
Yeah, you can't bake with that either.
Doesn't work for baking. Yeah. Those are your gum and candy. A lot of our processed foods, but that could be why those processed foods really give you that stomach upset.
No.
I think it's just to be mindful and what is going to be your choice. What are your health goals? If you really want to reduce the calories and use a non-nutritive sweetener, that may be something that is going to be your goal, and you can incorporate that in some baked goods. But we all want to incorporate that balance. We don't want to rely on those sweeteners to create everything that have that overly sweet taste, because like Dr. Hallerstein said, it is so much more powerful that you're going to start craving sweeter things or want that in your coffee or baked goods or even your everyday kind of foods, that a strawberry won't taste as sweet anymore because you're so craving and used to that super sweet taste.
Right. So although they may not increase your blood sugar immediately when you consume it, your blood-brain-gut communication gets used to a higher level of sweetness. Your craving is higher, and in the end, you may rebound and want more. So that's really one of the downsides, and it's being studied. It's not completely understood yet, but we're seeing that increase in craving with it. If you excessive use of these extra non-natural sweeteners.
All right, very good. And I cannot agree with both what you said, both more, especially with the trial and error with baking. Unfortunately, there's not a 1-to-1 because based on the other ingredients, that affects the whole sweetness of a dish. So it is a trial and error when you're trying with different sweeteners. But worth playing around. I mean, honestly, that's how chefs do it anyways, is play around and see how it goes. So as we were learning so much great about different sugar alcohols and replacements, I just was working on our bars here. I chopped some unsalted, unroasted peanuts. I've stirred together in a double boil the chocolate along with the coconut fat, and then that's just gotten nice and cohesive and melted now. The double boil helps prevent our chocolate from burning. And then I've got my dates sliced and in here in my little sheet tray here. For this to really work as a kind of almost a bark or a bar, we want to try to flatten these guys out. So I sprayed the top of my parchment here. And then I've got just kind of a heavy cast iron pan here. I wouldn't use glass. You don't want glass to break. So I'm in a heavy cast iron, heavy pan here. And I'm just taking it and kind of smushing these down to try to kind of gel them together. Like we said, there's moisture in here and natural sugars and fibers. So as you press, these guys are kind of dates are naturally got this fibrous pulp to them. They kind of get together and meld. If you're really frustrated about something about the holidays, maybe the store ran out of wrapping paper, I don't know, whatever, just found out you have to make 24 cupcakes for a school pageant. I don't know what's causing you stress today, but this is where to get it out. Just put all that pressure on. And then you can see, once we lift this up, we've kind of got them all melded together. And then I am going to spread my peanut butter over here, or almond butter, sorry. I'm looking at peanuts. Almond or peanut butter, again, unsweetened. And you want to watch if you can get unsalted too. And then, especially because we're going to sprinkle some salt on top, so you really don't need the salt. And spread it over. Just dollop it on and spread it. Hopefully these recipes today will encourage you to try to make your own nut butters at home. Works really well in a blender, really well if you've got a food processor. I'm just going to use the back of my spoon and spread it over the top. You can also chill the dates before spreading to help make them a little more cohesive if you want. But I think we're okay here. We're going to chill this after to firm this all up. A little offset spatula would work really well here too. We're going to break this all up into, at the end, in little piece bites. So it doesn't have to be perfect. This is where you could tell if someone's a pastry chef because they'll spend 2 hours on this trying to make it look so pretty. All right. And just get this guy down here. Boy, as soon as this nut butter hits with these dates, it smells. The chocolate's melted. Oh my gosh. Okay. And now I'm just going to go over with my nuts here. Sprinkle them along. And then I'm going to top with the chocolate. This feels very holiday to me. Kind of reminds me, if there's any Midwesterners on the call, if you've ever had Buckeyes, it's definitely giving me Buckeye feels. Okay. And then I'm just going to take my beautiful chocolate here. The bowl's got a little moisture on it. I don't want that on my bark, so I wipe that off. And then just go over with my chocolate. Spread it over. And again,
I don't know about you, but I love chocolate peanut butter combination. It's one of my favorites.
Yes. 100%. If I see that in a dessert, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm making. It's my favorite desserts to make, especially around this time of year. This is where I feel like I want it the most. It makes me so happy that there are ways to have this flavor combination. Again, we're talking about roasted notes, umami notes, really satisfying notes that you don't crave all that extra sugar with because you're getting so many great natural flavors. I feel like half the desserts I make around this time have peanut butter and chocolate in it. It's just how it's gonna go.
I think the beauty of this recipe is that once you have it all done, you've made so many that you can just kind of like take a little bite or take one out of the freezer. And it just goes back to, I think we had this whole discussion around portion control or sizing or thinking about what a good bite is. This feels like a really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we can. I think the problem with sweets is when they're so delicious, it's hard to limit your portion. But you know, it's important to divide it up and put it out of sight. I mean, this is the kind of thing, once you freeze it and make the portions, you know, can you package it up and have it ready to give as gifts, so you don't just keep digging in for yourself, but really thinking about how you can control your environment so that it isn't your go-to every time you come home from work. You're not gonna go into that freezer. You know, having cut up healthy things in your refrigerator, so those are your go-to snacks, and that you're giving this to yourself as a treat. You know, not every day is your birthday, but this is the time of year when you want to let yourself have some treats, and really thinking about the size of the plates. That, you know, if you put a whole plate out on your table, you're gonna keep going for extra little portions. But if you make yourself a plate of your dessert and put what you want to eat as your portion on that plate, it's a behavioral thing that just really helps you figure out the correct portions.
Yeah, I mean, there's 20 here, so cutting them into 20 pieces definitely helps you understand that it's just a little bite. We chilled these. You can put them in the refrigerator for an hour. You can freeze them for 30, 35 minutes if you're in a rush. Chilling them definitely makes it much easier to cut. And then at the end, you've got this little bite that cannot be more cute. And once you cut it, you see all the layers of the nut butter and the peanuts and the dates. And it's cohesive. And it definitely, initially when you put down that mess of sliced dates, you're like, how's this gonna come together? And it comes together so cute like this. So just for quality control, I'm gonna get a little taste here. That's fantastic. Man, is that good. I love nut butter and chocolate. I love that combination. And what's so satisfying about this is that the dates are so sweet. I don't think I could eat like 20 of these. Like that bite's really giving me that satisfaction of flavor, of sweetness. That is fantastic. Everyone should be making these in December. They are phenomenal. Yum. Okay. One more to go. We got our brownies. We got our date Snicker bites. And now we're gonna make some raspberry ice cream, or nice cream as it's called. Just gonna get in here a blender. If you got a blender or food processor, that's what we're looking for. This is as easy as blending everything up and scooping. You don't need a professional ice cream maker to make this. A really good blender will get everything that we need. So, I've got 20 ounces here of raspberries. So I'm just gonna add these in. Frozen raspberries. Scoop these in.
When you're looking for your frozen fruit too, always just look for the ingredient itself. So no added sugar in there as well.
Yeah, and this definitely, I've found in teaching classes that a lot of people feel like it's almost like a cheat, or somehow it's failing by using frozen fruit. Frozen fruit is picked at its peak ripeness. So you're getting the best quality fruit by using frozen. It's not raspberry season right now. So this is totally when it's okay to use frozen fruit. If it's not in season and you can't find it local, no shame in it. I know many chefs who work at Michelin star restaurants and they're using all the frozen fruit. So I give you permission, use the frozen fruit. It's good stuff. So I've got that in here. Just gonna bring over my tray. I've got in addition over here some coconut cream, which is the thick part that you see when you open up a can of coconut milk. You can also just buy coconut cream on its own. It's got less water in it, so it's thicker. Just make sure, again, read the ingredient statement, make sure there's not any added sugar to it. Got here a little bit of that vanilla and some cardamom, which is a really popular spice in Southeast Asian and Indian cooking, but it's also used in Scandinavian baking. It's a pretty popular spice. It's got a lot of warmth to it. So I highly recommend using it in any recipe that's got cinnamon or nutmeg in it. I really like cardamom. I don't think we use it enough here. It's got so much flavor. And again, if you have a lot of flavor in what you're making, you don't crave fat and sugar so much. So it's using good, fresh ingredients. I've got some maple syrup here. And then we're gonna blend this. That's it. I got my little bowl. When I'm gonna scoop it. And I'm gonna try to back off so you're not getting the sound of the blender going too much here. And the little trick is, if my berries are really frozen, you can always add a touch of water in, just to help it blend. So here we go, blending. I'll stand my microphone away a little bit just so you guys aren't getting blasted by that sound. And if you've got a stopper, you can put it in to help mix it. Oh, beautiful, thank you. All right, I'm just gonna take this off. Mix it up. Mix it up here. Again, if you have coconut milk, the thick part on top is what's considered coconut cream. So I'm just trying to mix
this. This is one of those, as you do this, this is one of those recipes that if you're trying this at home, I will definitely say that, I was telling myself, I'll definitely say that I don't have as fancy of a blender, and I will just pulse, pause, scrape, pulse, pause, scrape. It is way faster than trying to wait for something to freeze if you're trying to do a no turn. So I know I've gotten stuck on this step before. So for anyone at home, I would just do a little bit of pulse, push, and that was just my suggestion there.
It's an act of love. We're just gonna stop and scrape and keep going. The initial part of it is gonna take the longest amount of time, but it's this little initial effort at the beginning that'll eventually get us there. Again, this is so much easier than actually having to get out an ice cream machine or sorbet machine to do this. Each time I do it, give it a little toss, it comes together. And raspberries are so acidic. I really appreciate, they're kind of a nice palate cleanser, especially if you have a deeply savory or richer dinner. It's kind of nice to serve this because it's got really bright flavors in your mouth. Go, see it going.
So have everyone heard of this nice cream trend before? This is using the fruit as the base. So typically you see it with bananas, and you can always do a combination of raspberry banana if you like that flavor. But I really love this because you maybe have a serving of fruit as part of a dessert. And that is something that, again, we're looking for. We're looking for the added fiber now in the dish and the food positives, the benefits of what ingredients we are using. So I love this. We did have a question about, can you refreeze this? So after you make a big batch, any of your nice creams with the fruit in it, you can. Just know that it might have a little bit of an icier consistency just because when you do freeze it versus ice cream, there's more fat in there. So when it freezes, there's going to be smaller ice crystals. But with fruit, and we do have a little bit of fat from the coconut, it's going to yield larger ice crystals as it freezes, just making a little bit of an icier texture. So almost like more of a sorbet when you freeze it versus an ice cream.
Almost there. I'm starting to see the shift in the texture. This is good to do with little ones because they can help stop and stir. Because everyone wants a turn stirring. It has to be equal. It has to be democracy when it comes to stirring. So we're almost there. Getting it going. It smells so fresh.
One good thing I was going to say about this ice cream is, we're all trying to get enough fiber in our diet. We talked about fiber as important for your microbiome and, really changing how you absorb sugars, affecting your cardiac health. And this ice cream has like 9 grams of fiber in it, which is amazing. Like, how often do you find that with a dessert? And that's what's taking you a little bit of time to break it down, right? Is all the fiber in that frozen raspberry. Raspberries are a really wonderful source of fiber. This is like 1/3 of the fiber you should get in a day. Most of us should get about 22 grams a day and don't get anywhere near that. So whoever thought your ice cream was going to be your source of fiber?
I like that. That makes me feel good. It puts a smile on my face. We're almost there. It's almost there. So this really, as someone who's made homemade ice cream a lot, or ice cream in restaurants, let me tell you, this is not that much effort compared to what you have to do. There's no cooking this base on the stove. Using frozen fruit makes it go by so much quicker. We're not having to peel anything. We're not having to de-seed anything. It's going really quick. And I mean, again, you can mix this in with the frozen bananas is the one I see the most to give you that texture, but I kind of like the raspberry. Again, I'm a berry girl, so. And we're just getting ready here. I'm gonna get a spoon to scoop this. And then we've got some fun accompaniments to go on top that are going to add a lot of combinations of flavors, but also textures. We have cocoa nibs. We have some unsweetened coconut, which is really important. We're not adding the sugared coconut, it's unsweetened. We have some honey roasted pistachios chopped up. And then a really interesting ingredient that I think is so fun that's gonna add a little floral hit is bee pollen. And one more stir and then we're gonna go. Yeah, and I mean, just those color combinations. Again, we talked about cocoa nibs earlier of giving us that depth of that rich umami chocolate flavor. And it's so nice for dessert when you've got something like this smooth and creamy that we're gonna have this addition that's gonna add some texture.
We have questions for our team, which is all on what is bee pollen? Anyone able to share a little bit more about bee pollen and what it might be useful for?
One more blend, and then I think we're there. It smells.
So bee pollen is a mixture of the flower pollen, nectar, enzymes, honey, and wax from the bee secretions. So seems like a lot, but there's these little pearls almost of really great flavor, and they offer these antioxidants. And what we've learned in previous classes is that these antioxidants are helping with protecting our cells, reducing inflammation, and that's what we're looking for in ingredients that have these anti-inflammatory benefits.
Maybe we should go ahead and plate. I know we're coming up on time.
Yes, we just finished.
Yeah, so as you play, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping. Folks, we would love, love, love if you could respond to our survey. Palm is only as good as it can be if we get your input on what's working well, what you want to see more of. And this week we have a lot of questions around more things that we can offer to make it easier for you in your journeys. So please, please do fill out the survey. I will drop it into the chat. It will also be in your email. And I'll hand it back to you. This looks delicious.
There we go. There it is. It's smooth. It looks like I just scooped it out of a container. It's only a couple minutes of effort, and we've got our sorbet here. And give it a little taste. I don't know if you can hear that crunch from all the toppings, but that's fantastic. It's creamy. It's smooth. I can't believe we made that. It tastes like store-bought, so it's fantastic. These recipes are so fun. I hope you guys enjoyed all of them. There are a lot of diversity here, a lot of opportunities during December to make them, and I hope it opens up a whole new world of mindful dessert making. I especially appreciate it as a pastry chef, and I hope you did too. So thank you to all of you in Palm Health for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. Next week is pizza, so we hope to see you there.
Yes. Thanks, everyone.